So good evening to everybody. I'm happy to see you all. It is a very interesting connection between Canada and Bulgaria. And some of our friends are still getting late, but they will join us soon. And as a rule, we'll start with the Rotarian prayer. And do it this time. Or Mikko, you want to do it, or
excuse me,
I can do it. Okay.
I'm in the middle of something, just wrapping up.
Okay.
What do you want me to do?
The prayer, I will do it. Oh Lord,
No, I'll do it. Don't worry.
Make me an instrument of your peace.
Make me an instrument of your peace. Where there's hatred, let me sow love. Where there's injury, pardon. Where there's doubt, hate. Where there's despair, hope. Where there's darkness, light. Where there's sadness, joy. Grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand. For it is in giving that we receive. It is in pardoning that we are pardoned, and it is in dying to ourselves that we are born for eternal life. Also grant that I always fulfill the objects of Rotary. Amen.
Thank you.
I used to be a 5-year member of the Sophia International Club. That's why I know it by heart.
Okay. We don't do that here.
We are not religious also.
Well, usually here we do the national anthems.
Okay.
Our anthem and then the Canada anthem. If any of you is prepared to make the Canada anthem or to proclaim it, this is yes or no. Okay, so then we'll skip the anthems. Ask you for a minute of silence for the victims of COVID and the people who passed away. Thank you. And then I will give the floor to our guest lecturer, Dagmar, who is going to tell us more about the basics of Rotary.
Okay.
And, after that, I also want to announce that on 16 this month, if any of you is in Bulgaria, is invited to our cocktail in the center of Sofia, in the student house, 7 p.m. after 1 meeting. So please be in a hurry. Anyway, so Dagmar, please.
Actually, because you did the moment of silence, I think it's really important. Katerina, I hope she will agree with me, because something terrible has happened here. In Canada, a mass grave of children was just found, and they were all, we don't know, killed, murdered, died in this school, residential school, which is a boarding school, where they used to put Native children, and without their parents' permission, they just came and they took the children. Parents had no means of getting them back, of often even seeing them. And now they just found this mass grave.
At what age is the mass grave itself, Dagmar?
They don't know any details yet, because they just found it through a laser thing. And it's over 200 kids are in there. Sorry. Okay, sorry.
The thing is that nobody knew. Like, I've been here over 25 years, and these things have been happening even like 10 years ago. Like what the government of Canada was doing to the indigenous people is unbelievable. Like, that's very, very recent. So yeah, it's mind blowing. Like, we can't believe like how these things got hidden and nobody knew about it. Anyways, that's.
Well, it used to be an official policy, to what I know, because yesterday evening I watched Nicole Kidman movie. It's called Australia, okay. And it shows the Down Under right before the Second World War. What was happening to the Aborigines,
Same thing.
Indigenous
Yes.
people. That the official policy of the government was to take the children and the whole generation was taken from its parents and moved to church type of education and church institutions in order to try to assimilate these indigenous people. So maybe something like that was happening back in the place.
We have 3 generations of indigenous people that were taken away. I think it's stopped, as I said, maybe 10, 15 years ago, it stopped. And the worst part is nobody knew about it. It's so scary that people who lived in this country didn't know what the government was doing.
Right. And the church, because most of them were run with Roman Catholic priests or monks, kind of, who belonged to this order of the Christian Brothers. And anyhow, it's terrible. And because you did that moment of silence, that made me think about it. So, okay, now we'll go on to Rotary. And again, Rotary tends to attract people who care. So I think the things that are our goals, like the leadership, ethics, people caring about people who happen to have less than us, and trying to build up services for communities that are a little left behind. So I've been a Rotarian since 2000, so 20 some years, 21. And I have to say, in the beginning, I joined because of more networking, like more business, because I had an advertising company at the time, and I thought I should get to know different people. But I really stayed because of the humanitarian stuff that we were doing, because that spoke to me on a personal level. And I also have to say that first club was a lot of old men, but they did make me feel very welcome. And I don't know, I just kept going back. And at that time, we were heavily just a luncheon club. They didn't do it because they were older. They didn't have the energy left to do a lot of fundraising and to do a lot of things physically, but they did write checks to organizations that needed money. So that was, okay, so really, now that we're at this point, Rotary can be a check writing club where people give their own money or money that they collected and don't do much physical thing, or they can be a club that gets involved in the fundraising, in doing good in their own community. And actually, the club where I am now in St. Thomas, it's a new club, and it's a younger club. There are 2 in this little town here, 40,000 people. There are 2 clubs, and this newer club is the more active club, again, because the younger members can do things, whereas as a club gets older, they can't do tree planting anymore, or they can't do like 3 hours of standing in other fundraising projects. So I think it's important to realize that you can be one or the other or a mixture, and a club really has its own autonomy. It can totally decide what it wants to do, what it wants to participate in. You never have to do what comes from the top. There's really very little direction from the top, except that maybe this year's president might say, okay, I want 1 tree planted by every Rotarian, or I want to they have that $100 a year for every Rotarian for the foundation. Those are requests, but you don't have to fulfill them if they don't fit into your club's profile, or if you have members who can't afford that. I think it's perfectly acceptable to make your own guidelines in how you want to run your club. The main things are stick to the ethics, do the 4-way test, I think that's very important because it gives you a guideline. Again, if we all did our business and our daily life with the 4-way test, the world would be a better place. And we all have to work towards that in the long run anyhow. Leadership. Well, Rotary is actually great at developing leadership because they expect you to be the president at one point or another. So they will help you. They send you to seminars before, and you always have a past president who will guide you along if you need help. And to some degree, you have to follow the club's vision. Like you can't come in and be a president and think, okay, I'm going to change everything. It's not going to work because people will, you're all volunteers, right? So people aren't going to hang around if you change what they want to do. So I think it's very important that you stick with the club's goals, tweak them a little bit, like include your own goals to some degree, but you have to remember, you have to lead the other people and you have to sell them your idea. So the whole thing is you have to get their buy-in if you want to do something new. And it's good to do something new. Sorry, I gotta blow my nose. My brain is thawing out. So with new things, actually, I believe the district grants, I don't know if your club applies for any, but the district grants are only good for a certain number of years, and I believe it's 3. So if Rotary doesn't want you to do the same thing over and over and over again, because first of all, the organization that you're doing it for will come to expect it, and sometimes they don't even appreciate it anymore. So it's good to get new projects going. And I can give you a little example in that, like in the London club where I was, we did, okay, it's an old club, it's like 50 years old. And there is a camp for physically handicapped children where they go for a summer camp. And the Rotary Club used to do one meal there for them. And this started, I would say, 30 years ago. And they're still doing it, even though the camp management doesn't really want them there anymore. Like so many things have changed, but they're kind of stuck. Oh, we can't get a hold of the management people. We can't get the date. We can't get the food organized. Even food has changed. Like they still give them hamburgers and colored sugar water, which is a terrible thing to feed any kid, let alone a handicapped kid. So sometimes if you don't do the same thing over and over again, you will end up with better projects instead of doing same old, same old. I think that's my point in that particular thing. So, and I think that's why they decided to give out the district grants only for so many years, to kind of force the clubs to think about new projects and to give them a chance to come up with new ideas rather than doing the same old. One of the things you guys might not have this issue as much as North America, but the biggest issue in North America is membership. Apparently, and I couldn't believe this, like we have 1.2 million Rotarians in the world, but apparently every year around 1 million people join, but then they leave again. So really that the membership has been stagnant for 20, 30 years, even though we're getting lots of new members, but we're not able to keep them. We're not able to engage them, that they see a future and a reason to stay. So that's, sorry, my husband coming through. That's one of the things that is really important. So management in Evanston in Illinois had to look at new ways of keeping Rotary going, because eventually it would die out. As the older members leave us, not enough new ones are coming. So I think where the biggest growth is right now is in the Rotaract clubs, which is sort of the in-between high school student and Rotary. Plus, they've opened up Rotary clubs. I don't know if you know this, but Rotary, you used to have to be 35 years of age, and now you can join at any time, really, as long as you don't have to have a profession. That was the big thing. Before, it was considered a professional club, and you had to be sort of a business owner, or you had to be in a management position. But now they will take you based on your community involvement, on your desire to participate in local projects or international, if that's what turns you on. What else? And feel free to interrupt me anytime. Okay, integrity. That's really important too. So if you bring in new members, find some that have integrity. Like, how do you deal with that? I think it's important that we get new members, but not just anybody. They have to fit in. They have to be somebody that you trust as their sponsor, and they have to have kind of those values, even if not everybody has the same values, but they have to have basically fall under this umbrella of a caring person and a person that wants to change the world. And with Rotary, in a way, you can change the world, because you are part of a team of 1.2 million people, and we have a lot of money sitting in our foundation, and we do a lot of little grants that help individuals, and we do a lot of big things now. Apparently, they're going to big things. I'm sure you all read the Rotary magazine, and you find out that now we're doing $1 million grants, and they're doing it more scientifically. Like, they're going to the communities first, asking what would help you here, and they're always working with the Rotary Club in that particular country or city, wherever you want to do your project. So that is the one advantage of Rotary, that there is your club who wants to give money, and then there is a receiving club who works with the project and with the people that are actually involved in doing this. And I think just that hands-on connection guarantees the success of projects much more. And we've learned, my God, Rotary has made lots of mistakes too. I remember reading at one point, they put toilets into a school in, I don't remember whether it was India or Pakistan or Africa somewhere, but they put toilets into this school. And I think 3 years later, when somebody happened to go back to that school, the principal had moved into the toilets, because the toilets was the best place in the school. So he didn't even have the understanding himself that the toilets were necessary for the children, especially girls, to be utilized. And it wasn't for his prestige and his, okay, it's the nicest place in the school, so I'm going to put my office there. No, that's not acceptable. So I think by having that Rotary Club working with the project, there's always somebody there who can fix things, because things break down too. Apparently, a lot of times, like if we do water wells or something like that, they work for a year and then something breaks and nobody knows how to fix it. So you have to have that other club there who actually will go with the issue and will take care of it. Diversity. We connect diverse perspectives. Most Rotary clubs are not religious at all. I'm sure some are. However, we're definitely non-denominational in the sense that we don't, maybe, I don't know, I can't say, can't speak for Muslim countries or where there's maybe a tighter community there. North America here is pretty open as far as religion is concerned. So here definitely there is nothing that connects us to any religion at all. Our mission, we provide service to others, promote integrity, advance world understanding, goodwill and peace through our fellowship of business. Okay, when I first joined Rotary, somebody in my club said to me, "You'll never eat lunch alone again." And I kind of thought, oh, okay, well, what does he mean with that? But then he went on to explain, wherever you are in the world, you can go to a Rotary club and meet someone, and usually they will welcome you. Some might even show you their city. Some might invite you to their family home for dinner. Again, it depends a little bit on the culture that you're visiting, but truly you can always find somebody to eat with, to converse with, to maybe even do a project with. Because if they happen to do something that interests you, you could participate in that. Class, vocational always, I never quite understood that, but vocational, I think, because we do these business exchanges. So for instance, Katerina is a yoga teacher. She could go to some country, well, let's say Bulgaria, and she could participate in a professional exchange with that. And somebody from Bulgaria is going to come here and learn how people do business in that part of the world, and how they approach marketing, how they approach ethics, how the lifestyle, everything. I think Rotary has such an incredible opportunity to bring people from diverse backgrounds together, because we all share that common thing of wanting to do good in the world and wanting to improve the world. And we should always be good examples. Now here it says, example, good or bad is contagious. If we set a good example, seeing us, others may do likewise. All of us have more influence than we sometimes suppose. And Rotary President Richard Evans said that in 1967, of all things. So basically, yes, as we are in our daily life, in business, in home, with our friends, we are an example of what people ought to be like and what people can do. And I think they see, as soon as they know you're a Rotarian, they see you in a certain way, and they will judge all of Rotary by how you are. So that's a big burden at the same time. But I feel it makes you strive to become a better person. It makes you strive to be honest, to be friendly, to be understanding, kind, compassionate. And I think these are all good qualities. And now please ask me some questions, because I can go on babbling forever.
Okay. I will ask you about, you mentioned networking was the reason you started. And this, I had the same reason when I joined Rotary. And how was with you? Was it successful?
No. Actually, in my case, it wasn't at all. I think for some businesses, it can be, but not in the beginning. It's definitely, most people don't join it for that, I think. And we don't know that when we start, because you think, okay, there's a diverse group of people here. Especially in the older days, there were only there were the classifications where you had one lawyer, one real estate person, one eye doctor, one blah, blah, blah. So you'd think the networking possibilities were good, but they don't seem to be focused on that, at least for me. Did it work for you?
So, let's
Okay.
say. So that's why I asked.
Okay, well, it probably depends on your group too.
Yeah, of course.
Yes, because you have younger people here. Mm-hmm.
And it depends on the other clubs, because we had many meetings with other clubs before the COVID.
Yes.
And then we exchanged some
yes
business cards, etc.
Actually, that's a good point too. When you're if you have more than one club in your area, it's really good to check them out and get to know those people too, and find out what they're doing. Like our club here in St. Thomas is very close with the old, what I call the old club, the older club, because some of the members jumped from the old club to the new club. And we still do some projects together. For instance, St. Thomas is going to build a hospice finally. And our club committed $50,000 over the next 5 years, so $10,000 a year. And then they went and asked the other club at the same time if they were willing to give something, and they matched our donation or our commitment. And so in essence, we can tell the St. Thomas public now that Rotary clubs of St. Thomas will donate $100,000 to this project, which makes us look good in the community. Like, it's very important how you're perceived in your community, because that's where your future members will come from. So if you don't do anything in your community, you probably won't get many members, because nobody really knows anything you're doing. So I think it's important. I used to think that Rotary shouldn't advertise, but now I've changed my mind on that. I think it's absolutely vital to get your name out there and to be seen, and that your community knows, like if you do playground equipment, or if you do an art show or anything, it's vitally important to say sponsored by Rotary, and if you guys have Rotary gear, like my old club had aprons. Here we have hats, and we have sweaters and golf shirts and that kind of thing. I think it's really good that people see you dressed in your Rotary gear, because they will, a mental connection is made between what's going on here in the community with your club, and you never know where your next member comes from. You never know. So that's important.
So was this project like district project you made with the other club, or made it like
actually no
between the clubs?
This particular one, oh yeah, we're going to get district money for sure. So the district money has to be, I don't know if I understand the money flow 100%, but apparently from the donations that go to the foundation, so much money has to go back to the district, and the district then gives it out. And if people don't claim it, if the clubs don't claim it, it goes back to the foundation. So there's so much money available. I think it says here from the annual fund. So if you give to the annual fund, then so much money comes back to the district, and the district just waits for applications from all the different clubs of what you want to do with that. And this would be local stuff, because for the international, it's a different grant. So, so basically, okay, so our club, we buy, at Christmas time, we buy apples from a local farm, and we put them into a food program where poor people pick up a Christmas bag full of food. And the apples, so we bag apples, and it costs about $3,000 to our club, but we get $1,500 back from the district because we do this local project. And also we feed homeless people in a church. For that, we get, let's say, $2,000. I think there is a max for every project, but you can have more than one project. So if you have 2 or 3 projects and you apply to the district for that money, they will reimburse you for some of your expenses. Not 100%, but let's say 1/3 or half or something like that. And this particular club here, because we have 2 people here in this club who were part of the district, so they understand how that works, and they do all the paperwork. It's a bit tedious in paperwork, but it's well worth it because it's free money to you that you don't have to raise. You'll just have to kind of match it. So, and I don't, yeah. So the different, go ahead.
We are coming to the next question, which is about the fundraising.
Right.
You mentioned in the preliminary talks about your project. Can you tell us about this?
Right. So before COVID, this club did quite a few fundraisers. They, for instance, organize in the springtime, they organize a fish fry, which they hire a caterer. And so they don't cook themselves, because sometimes you might not get members who want to do that kind of thing. So in this case, we hire a caterer, we organize a hall. It's our job to sell tickets, to sell as many tickets as possible. So let's say $25 or $30 for a ticket per person. And usually we sell 300 to 400 of these tickets. And then, so whatever's left after our expenses are paid, that's our profit. And usually we made $1,800, $2,200, $2,300 on this. So that's one thing. Our other thing is gambling. And unfortunately, I personally think it's a terrible way to make money, but the guy who did the training at the casino, he actually said to us, if these gamblers don't come here to gamble, they would gamble online. So either way, they're going to gamble. If you're going to be a gambler, you will spend your money. And unfortunately, that's sometimes not good for the families. But at least in this case, if they gamble through the local casino here, through the bingo thing, then we get proceeds from that, because that's a provincially mandated way of that casinos have to deal with their proceeds, is they have to give it back to the community. So when the gambling was open, which it isn't right now, but when it was open, we usually made $800 to $1,000 a month just by putting 2 people on the bingo floor for 2 hours, 2.5 hours, like not very long. And once a week. And it's a good way of making money fast. The other thing was, okay, so this past summer, because we had COVID, there wasn't really anything going on. Some clubs apparently do really well with online auctions. I haven't checked it out personally, but you might want to just Google Rotary online auctions or Rotary clubs online. And some have, like that one, when we took this course, they made us talk to other people in other clubs. And one club made $20-some thousand, like $22,000 through some online auction. We didn't have enough time to go into details, but that information is out there somehow. So last year we did a farmer's market, and we asked the organizers of the market if we could put up a booth, and they actually asked us if we could do the directions of the parking, because there's this big meadow and all the cars come in and they have to be directed to parking spots, etc. And then we get to talk to the customers of the farmer's market, and we ask them for donations. So last year we made, in the end, with the Christmas market and the summer market, I believe we made $12,000, which kind of helped us in a year where we could almost do nothing. So that was good. Tickets, a lot of clubs do again, it's a form of gambling where they go to, okay, our club did that too. They go to 10 different restaurants and they get the restaurant to commit to a free meal for 2 people. Not on a Friday or Saturday night, because that's when they don't have seats. But so basically, and then you sell these tickets to, again, it's selling involved. And some clubs don't like selling. It depends on the climate in your club, because selling can be difficult. And some people don't want to approach other people and say, you want to buy this, and after a while you keep going to the same people, and then it becomes tedious. So other than that, actually one thing, now you might need more women for that because it's a more female oriented thing. The Old St. Thomas Club, they do a Christmas open house project. So what they do is they pick maybe 7 or 8 beautiful old homes in the city, and they ask businesses to decorate these homes for Christmas, and then they'd sell like a Christmas tour. And women apparently love to go see Christmas decorations, and they do really well with this because there's virtually no expense. The home is donated for this Sunday afternoon. I think they do 2 Sunday afternoons, and then the people that live in that home, they of course have beautiful Christmas decorations around for that year because they stay for the season. So I think it's 2 Sunday afternoons. They go from home to home, and they get to eat a few cookies that are donated, and tea that's donated. And they get to go look at all the 6 or 7 or 8 homes that are decorated. And it's a social thing for local women to go out and look at these Christmas homes. And they do really well with the old club. Yeah, I don't think I can think of any other.
It is fair enough. And we were talking about the starting of Rotary, about the history. And it was quite interesting. Maybe you can share.
Right. Okay. So you remember the year when it was started. When was Rotary started?
1908.
Okay, 1908. The way I understand it, and apparently they are now renovating, some club in Chicago is renovating Paul Harris's home, and they're going to make sort of a museum out of it. So that will be probably a fundraiser for that particular club that's taking this project on. That for $10, you can go in and see Paul Harris's home. So Paul Harris was a person that grew up in a small town, and he moved to Chicago when he finished his law, or maybe he did his law studies in Chicago. And when he was ready to start his practice, he felt really isolated and alone in this big city because he didn't know enough people. And this is how he got the idea. I'm going to get to know, or I'm going to ask a few guys, and it was only men in those days. I'm going to ask a few guys if they want to have lunch with me once a week. So he did. And what it ended up being was like 3, 4, 5 guys. And they all had offices because they were all professionals. So Paul Harris happened to be a lawyer, I believe. And they would move, every week they would move to somebody else's, George, the lawyer. Every week they would move to somebody else's office for that luncheon appointment. And they got together and they talked about their life in Chicago and about, issues, local issues and what was happening, etc. And they found they had a common thread, that they were all, they all could benefit from each other's business experience and from each other's enthusiasm for, again, making things better in the world. And as the group grew, that's how the Rotary name came about. Because Rotary means they rotated from office to office for lunch. And as the group grew, their first project was a public toilet, because in Chicago, there were no places to go to the washroom in the city when you were out in the city, and there weren't as many restaurants and donut shops, coffee shops around in those days. So they decided that would be their first project, and that's what it is. And I wonder if that's still there. Next time I'm in Chicago, I'm going to have to look that up.
And check where is the director. In the toilet. Is he in the toilet or not? Where is his office? People of the school. Anyhow, thank you for this nice information. So friends, here we call everybody friend, because this is principle of Rotary, and
Yes.
Friends, and even the friends of friends.
Yes.
Friends, so friends, if any of you want to ask a question or say something, welcome.
No?
Chairman, maybe.
Yes, of course. It was very interesting and thoughtful. Thank you for sharing this very rich and, how should I say, illuminating type of experience, particularly on the fundraising side. It was very useful for us to start to get some of the advice. And
Yes.
this relation to the community, of course, is vital for Rotary. I understand from what you are saying that this is a thriving Rotary community in your town, your club, the old club that you referred to, and wished very much to ask a question, because apart from everything else, it's about the fellowship, because what you said about Paul Harris is of course true, but there is more to be added to it in terms of think of 1908. This was the time when Chicago in particular was full of crime, and there was so many dishonest people around. So they decided that the club or clubs in the future would expand by people that are attracted by invitation.
Yes.
In other words, there was one unwritten requirement: decency and integrity of the person who would join the group, and will never spoil the atmosphere and its principles. So I believe fellowship is a little bit of a legacy from that approach, because I understand you were referring to at one point, at one sentence, that you never know where your next member will come from. But I am afraid you have to know very well your next member.
Yeah, you got a point there. Yes, yes.
Because
Yes.
of this sort of recruiting, and plus this would be the question: how do you recruit? How do you make sure about the enduring fellowship in the club? And what is, in your assessment, the incentive of these members? What it consists of?
You live in a big city, so I think that's definitely different than here in a smaller town where so many people know each other. Yeah, I think in a big city, you pretty much have to rely on business contacts, your family contacts, your friends that you happen to have. And I think, I think that's why Rotary did really well for a long time, because people took their friends and they brought their friends. And once the friends saw that they had a good time, then they brought their friends. But eventually they became older and they didn't have new friends anymore. I think that's the one downfall with bringing people that are a lot like you into the club: your friends, your family, your business acquaintances, associates. If you eventually, that club will stagnate because everybody has already brought everybody that they know. So I think then you have to go back to, well, maybe that's why they loosened the rules a little bit. That's why they put the age down, because actually we had one case here where the daughter said, Mom, I want to become a Rotarian. And the mother said, you're not old enough, because she was only like 27 and she had to be 35 in those days. And that's an issue, because right away you're stopping young people from joining. So they have opened up the rules on that. They have opened up the even the rules on having to have a meal with your thing, having to attend every week. That's all gone now. I think you only need to attend twice a month. Even if you go online, counts as a meeting. Fundraising counts as a meeting. Service counts as a meeting. So as Rotary International, like the Rotary, the head office people, as they realized that they were not able to keep new members and gain new members, they had to change the rules of engagement for the newer people who were interested in joining, but somehow couldn't because they weren't a professional, they weren't old enough, they didn't have the right connection. They, I think, and you know, in my opinion, it hasn't lowered the standards yet. It might down the road. Like you might get for instance, we have a Lions Club organization in Canada, and they are considered more blue collar. So, but is it bad to be blue collar? So you have to, I think Rotary just has to open up the boundaries, give it a try. And if they find that their standards actually go down, they'll have to look at it and deal with it somehow. That's my opinion. I would think I'm a bit of a risk taker in life and in general. So I would do that if I were a Rotary. And next year, I think is going to be a woman as international president. She's actually Canadian. So I think that's what they're attempting to do. And you know, they have this council of what do they call them? They meet every 4 years in Evanston or in California. I don't remember which one, but they meet and they discuss certain points, and they decided to open it up more. And the biggest opposition was from Asian clubs, because in Asia, being a Rotarian is still a huge prestige thing. And they didn't want to dilute the membership by having to accept lower people. But in North America, we have to, otherwise we're gonna die out. Europe, I don't know, because I don't know. But North America, if they don't change their rules, the old clubs cannot attract young people. So they had to.
Thank you. You gave us a brilliant idea about the online auctions. And I think that Dimitri is very good in auctions, and we can think about it, and we can present some of the stuff that was presented by one of our guests online, try to sell the wood carved stuff that Raphael Cross and things like that he was showing. Maybe this will work. So we have to find out this information. If you say that there are Rotary online auctions,
yes,
it's a good idea.
If I can find out who that was in that course, I can maybe then I can send you their link, and you can talk to them personally and see how they did that. Yeah.
Okay. And it's quite interesting whether they were doing it only in Canada or internationally, how they were transferring.
I don't know. Yeah.
An issue, because Canada is big. And
very big, yeah.
It is not so big, so.
Yeah.
We have to think about this. So if there is no questions, I will close the official part and we'll stay between us, and I'm sure that we'll have much more things to say.
Thank you. Thank you. I hope it was entertaining and you learned something.
Stopping our stream.
Thank you. Bye-bye.